Welcome to Grain Damage, brought to you by Arruda Contracting. Find us at facebook.com/Arruda Contracting. A couple years ago, I had some customers that asked me to trim out an accent wall for their upcoming baby's room. This was a result of that. Now I was asked if I can do another wall that has a much more intricate design to it. So of course I said yes. Let's see how it all came together. I started off by laying out the wall, trying to recreate the same style of design the customers showed me. Things I had to keep into consideration were, the wall I was working on was shorter in height and in width, so laying everything out beforehand is a critical element to this process. I used the thickness of the pieces of trim I was using, which was 2.5 inches thick, as my spacers and guidelines. To keep everything symmetrical and looking aligned, this was my critical dimension. Once I had everything laid out, it was time to start framing things out. I started with the overall frame of the wall first, installing the horizontals. The floor and ceilings were not perfectly level, so I had to install these two pieces level to ensure the rest of the layout worked properly. Then I filled the vertical spots that created the overall total frame of the wall. Next, I framed in the center area that would eventually have a name placed in it. After that, I was ready to start working on the two side panels. Again, first installing the horizontals and then the verticals. I did need to cut around one electrical outlet. I made sure to stay about 1/8 away from the plug covers. Following that, I was able to figure out my main angles that needed to be cut to create the almost triangular shape on the top and the bottom. Then I followed the same basic routine after that to complete the rest of the angles. I was doing my best to keep all the joints as tight as possible to minimize filler needed on the joints. For some of the pieces, I had to cut the tiniest little sliver of trim off, sometimes multiple times, to get the exact fit I wanted. It does take some extra time and effort to do this, and sometimes a lot of running in and out of the house, but the final product is definitely worth that effort. Ultimately, if I didn't spend that time getting the perfect cuts, I would end up spending more time on filling and sanding out the joints later. The beautiful thing about a good layout is that it easily gives you guidelines to follow to get your pieces of trim cut precisely. You can guarantee your edges will all align perfectly, and none stick out farther than they should. If they didn't align, you'd notice that something was off, and the wall wouldn't have as great an impression at the end. As I started in the center section, I installed 3 full pieces first and then cut all the center pieces to fill in the gaps. Again, a good layout helps make sure all those cut pieces sit properly in line with one another. After that I had to do some wood filler wherever I had minor gaps, or where the wall was not straight and I had to adjust things to fit. I sanded out the filler and made sure all the joints were flush. Then I caulked all the trim into the wall and it was ready for paint. Here's the final product. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos in the future.